Sige, share yan. Mas maganda ko kapag natapos na yun.
Matagal pa.
Kailan na ako?
Ano ulo mo?
Nasa total mo 1.5 billion ito. Para 500. Yes, 2 years consultation.
Nagsalita sila.
6 months. 3 months. Nasaan ang sino bang ano natin dito? Si Ping.
Kala ko. Yeah, wala ka.
Saan siya na? Si Ping.
The one who negotiated. Dictated.
PCC yan eh.
Willing ano naman tayo, willing.
Kasi hindi kayo mapahit, pasumpi na kami. Bawas with the Chief Justice kahapon.
Oo, nakita ko nga sa ano.
Ano kayo? Wala nang rason na kasi bigyan na kami ng rules and strict. We can now go to a so lack of the computer, so downgrade and search and
Power to search.
So, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for coming here today to the MOA signing for the Big Data Analysis for Monitoring Market Competition project. So, to begin our event, we'd like to call on Chairman Arsenio Balisacan, Chairman of the Philippine Competition Commission, to give his opening remarks.
Okay. Welcome to PCC. Welcome to Undersecretary Dennis Mapa. I understand it's first year here, so I'm obligated to tour him around after this. But I just want to stress that this exercise, this collaboration between and among PSA, PCC, and UP College of Public and CIPAG through the foundation. And through the grant provided by USAID, is going to be another milestone for us because for us practitioners in the competition field, data is our lifeline. Data, good data, and especially in forms that are useful for our cases, for our review, for our analysis, and of course, with this fast development in technologies and the evolution of data, even data as assets, is now very going to be challenging to really come up with information that are useful for the PCC, of course useful for PCC, but also for other agencies who understand, respond, and so supports the issue of business, and so and of course it will be NEDA, particularly its Philippine Development Plan. So I think this is a first of its kind effort between PCC and PSA to systematically come up with an arrangement that will provide better access to data, and hopefully also more timely access and assemble or put in place data sets that are readily available for our investigation work, in support of our investigation work. We often stress that because of the nature of our work, that we run after cartels, abuses of markets. We want to make sure that there's discipline there, that we just don't launch a case and instill fear in the business community. But we want to assure them that there are bases, economic reasonings under our that runs our actions, and part of that reasoning comes from understanding of what the data are telling us. So start with good understanding of markets, as we see from the data available to us. PSA is a storehouse of so much information that is not so much, I would say, not so much exploited. But they said that a really good opportunity to put all the data in systematic form that would allow us to inform public policy. So that's, I'm thankful to USAID to the response team and the PSA to agreeing to come to this collaboration, and we can be assured that, of course, through the leadership of being that when those cases come to the commission, there's no more excuse not to say we don't have data, and that's all that we could provide, all the analysis that we could do, because we really exert a lot of pressure on the economics office to provide adequate information to the cases that come before the commission, so that we could properly form correct decisions. So with that, we should sign.
Yes.
And where are the documents? Yeah.
So we'd like to call on the legal department to please distribute the MOAs.
There is response first. Oh, yung response una, and then Carl will present.
So while we're distributing the MOAs for your perusal, also, we'd like to call on Dr. Enrico Basilio from Respond, the Chief Party of Respond, to also say a few words.
Okay. Good afternoon. Very briefly, Respond, which stands for Regulatory Reform Support Program for National Development, seeks to enhance Philippine competitiveness by making the environment more open, and by removing barriers to market entry, reducing transaction costs. Chairman mentioned about the ease of doing business. We are also doing work for the tariff commission on the non-tariff measures. Of course, we are working also with the governance commission for GOCCs, because we are trying to strengthen regulatory governance. Primarily, we are focused on decoupling the conflicted regulators. And so, addressing anti-market or anti-competitive behavior is one major concern of the project, and this is why we are providing this assistance to the Philippine Competition Commission. We are so happy, and we fully support this initiative. And in fact, we are excited to see how the results should be expanded to cover other areas. So that's why, as the chairman mentioned, having the data is critical, and we fully support this partnership between the Philippine Statistics Authority and Philippine Competition Commission, and the study that will be done, basically to utilize the data. So I'll cut it short. So we can, we're here to respond to the needs of the agencies, so as we can enhance Philippine competitiveness. That's a project that we support this initiative. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Basilio. Next, to give us a little bit of an overview of the project in the MOA, we'd like to call on Mr. Carl Handok for his presentation on big data.
It's the first seminar.
Do you,
Cannot
seminar ba kayo rito? May here. Ano lang ba invite?
USB-C. Meron.
Bukas. Anong growth daw? Anong growth? Sabi ko bukas. Dalawa. Yung mga school.
Sabihin, wala pa. Alam ko na yung system na yun. Alam mo, palaging away namin yung police na yan. Gusto nyo access niya sa ano? Only the president and the president. You want the go to the president.
Ang ibang countries kasi, 2 months na. Singapore, 2 months. Tapos nag-report sila. May comparison. Palagi naman. Ayaw ng data tayo. Ito, maybe
Pwede ba dito?
I will ano na lang.
Okay.
Ako na lang mag-alay.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. Looking around the room, I see my first boss who hired me at PIDS, Dr. Mar Lamberte, who also wrote my recommendation for me to go to grad school. So basically, this is the fruit of all Dr. Lamberte's hard work. And and so I'm Carl Handok. I'm from the UP School of Economics. With me in this project is Dr. Annette Balawi-Peltmans, who's in Erasmus University in the Netherlands. We were supposed to Skype, but tulog pa yata siya. And Adrian Mendoza over there, our newest PhD graduate from the UP School of Economics, is also here. Adrian, can you ask? Yeah, and then Adrian is from Laurel, Batangas, so his home is currently buried in ash. Kaya it's nice for him to be here despite all the psychological trauma he has experienced. So right now I will talk about the role of big data specifically for public policy. And as an illustration, I will use the merged PSA transactions data set with the firm level surveys. And because this is a PCC project, we will use this to monitor market competition. Thank you. Now, if we think about big data, next slide, please. We think about big data, we tend to think about large amounts of information, okay? And so, sorry, I step out. Is my voice loud enough? Okay, yeah. So, what's important in big data and things that you have to be cognizant of is the volume of data. So, big meaning millions of rows, okay? Variety of data, what can be measured, the velocity, the frequency at which it arrives, and the veracity of the data. Next slide, please. And so in business, this is already being prioritized, big data, because eventually they use data for their profitability and competitiveness. Okay, so they use data for demand trends, to analyze supply chain constraints, and develop improved products and delivery of services, and use information from real-time feedbacks to come up with timely and well-targeted business strategies and solutions. Next. Now, of course, within sectors, it's very clear which of these prioritize big data. So in aviation, they need real-time information, for example, on preferences of people for flights, for when to travel. So most of the industries here say that big data is one of their top priorities. Around 30% of firms in those industries and above, okay, say that big data is their priority. But the gap really is what's the use of big data in public policy. Okay? So World Bank says that big data is used to evaluate and enhance the services of government. Okay, and then this data can be used to learn about public sentiments and ultimately lead to better evidence-based policy making. Okay, when we think about big data, we usually think about data that comes from internet. Okay, so like Facebook posts and stuff. But in the government, there are also tons of information out there. For example, you have transactions in banks, in government offices. Basically, these are administrative data that's out there. For example, tax records, business registries, and hospital and school records. Now, this is very nascent, but all around the world, the governments are beginning to realize that big data has its advantages. So, first of all, since it's big, its sample is larger than most surveys, and it approximates information closer to the population. And thus, it can be used to formulate tailor-made policies. And in the event that you want more information from a segment of the society, more targeted information, then it can be a basis for targeted surveys. The beauty with big data is that it's relatively frequent, so you can do a panel or longitudinal or cohort analysis with that. And of course, government owns it, so it can be made available at any time. The problem is the jump from collecting data to using it for policy has many voids in between. So collecting data, for example, by PSA, needs to be used and analyzed by someone, which is the middle two parts of the chain, to package it, and finally for policymakers to use it. Okay, so that chain, in each of the links, problems exist. That's why we're happy that we have this collaboration, so that that whole chain can be strengthened. Now, the project, the IMIT project, started this effort way back 2011. Okay, so a collaboration between UP and the Erasmus University in Rotterdam. In 2011, they started to link the transactions data set, okay, across years, because there's prior to 2011, they did not link firms across time. Okay, so the first effort was to link the transactions data set, the exports and imports data set across time via firms. And so the second part of the effort is not only linking firms across time for transactions, but also to link surveys, existing surveys from the PSA to this big administrative data set. So in the end, the data set spans from 1991 to 2012. Okay, so this covers most of the trade liberalization years, the crisis years, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, this is the longest panel data set in the world. Okay, definitely in Asia. Okay. So here, what we have so far from 1991 to 2012, we have more than 9 million observations, 6 million imports. Now this is aggregated per year. So we have around 92,000 firms who are importing and 64,000 firms who are exporting. So this is a really big data set. Okay. What we did in the previous project was to link two types of data sets. The first part, the blue one, is the transactions data set of exports and imports from 1991 to 2012 with products, firms there. And so, firms in that data set are encoded with identifiers called the IMP code. On the other hand, on the yellow side are surveys of firms and censuses of firms which contain information on employment, revenue, cost of the firms. Okay? The identifiers there is called the establishment control number. The difficult part, actually, is to harmonize the EC and then the IMP. And so the effort, the prior effort before was to harmonize those two. That's why we are able to link that one. And so we have information from 1991 to 2012 and firm information from 1996 to 2012 linked together. Okay? So just an example. So for example, you could drill down into specific sectors. Here, we're just using automobile-related products. Okay, so we have information on the number of importers and exporters here from 1991 to 2012. The red bars over there are importers and the blue bars are exporters. We can see that what happened here is that in 2005, there must be something happening where the number of firms suddenly decreased. I don't know why. It's still a mystery. So that's why we need to drill down closely. And so because of the disaggregated nature of the data set, you can look at specific products. Here, we can extract the top automobile-related export products. So we can see for this thing, the 7-digit product codes. So the top exports are wiring harness for motor vehicles, brakes, okay, this gearboxes. Okay, so these are the products that are the top export in automobile-based ones. The beauty of this data set is that it's a panel. Okay, so you track the same number of firms over time. Because of that, you will know when a particular firm entered the market, the year, and kung nalugi siya, to exit the market. Okay, so in this case, we can track the new entrants, which is the black line. The red are the permanent exiters, meaning they went out of the market and never returned. Okay, the green one are the survivors who were there until the end, came in 1991 and who were there until the end. So you see, in 2005, there were tons of permanent exiters. Where did these firms go? That's a question for policy. And you know, from 1997, in the Asian financial crisis, up to 2012, there was an almost monotonic decline in the number of new entrants, which is the black line. Okay? So the beauty of this data set is that you can track firms over time, and then you can do some sort of survival analysis.
Census of establishment.
Both ASPBIs. This is just transactions, based on the transactions, the exports and imports. So they have firms there, so you can track which firms started exporting and which firms went out of the export market.
It's almost like a census.
Yeah. This is admin data, so firms are obligated to report their exports and imports to BOC. Okay, so another example is like rice importers, which is a hot topic now. Unfortunately, we only have data until 2012. That's why we need this project to continue. So we see that the number of rice importers have been gradually increasing. Next. And you can also do the same analysis of entrants and exiters. So sometime in 2003, there were new entrants, but also most of them exited the market during that time. I don't know what. Okay, so the beauty of this is that if we continue this into the present time, questions on market power of rice importers under the rice tariffication law can be addressed. Okay, good. So for example, market concentration, this is the share of import value from the top 5 rice importers. So the top 5 has really dominated. Most of the import shares are captured by the top 5 until like 2010. Okay, now that was the data, and allow me now to spell out our engagement, what we commit to do. So we are committing to do 4 a set of activities that will satisfy 4 objectives. The data-related objectives, linking to other admin data, capacity building, and data utilization. Next. Under the data-related objectives, we commit to at least update the data set until the most recent period, and I'm happy that the ANS Rose and ANS Grace are here because they're very crucial in this effort. And so we will continue until the latest period, and we will integrate these 2 data sets, the trade transactions and the firm level data sets, and create a panel. Next. So another effort is to sort of examine whether there are other administrative data sets out there that can be linked to this data set. Offhand, we can think of like the SEC business data set. I know there are efforts to, tama ba, NS Dennis, to get from SEC information on the business, financial statements. So to the extent, and hopefully to the extent that it can be linked to these data sets, then it will provide a wealth of information. Okay, so the capacity building objectives, we would train PCC and PSA staff to use the latest software available. Okay, and for PCC staff in particular to come up with measures of market concentration power using this data set. For data utilization, we would provide typologies like what we did earlier in the examples, concentration measures, and then data descriptives. And to the extent that we can organize seminars to highlight policy issues that is informed by using this data, we will. So next. So this is a timeline. I'm not sure if we will talk about it, but technically it starts in January this year and up to October. So all the data groundwork will be done in the first 2 months, January, February. And the capacity building would start in March and April. And then utilization would be, data utilization activities would be from May to August. And then seminars would be conducted in September. And finally, the submission of the final report would be in October. Okay. So these are the papers written so far using the data set. It's until 2012, but I'm proud to say that we have graduated 2 PhDs with this, Adrian and Haro. Okay, so that's it. If there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer, and I think Dr. Mark will answer questions.
Since the PSA here, can I request that we give high priority to the linking this firm level data
In the grade.
the grade level
Yeah.
household,
Sa household.
because you want to
So
no, I-
probably there's a question in the NFS that says, where are you working? So,
I think that the reason there is our competition law mandates us to do the impact of
Actions.
Actions.
This firm.
on consumer
On
welfare,
welfare.
and yet the parties are firms, no?
Yeah.
So and that's where usually we have some problems. We often in our decisions, you often mention about impact on welfare, but we don't show the estimates.
Any quantitative information as well?
But I think this would be a nice. I know the difficulties. I appreciate the difficulties, but I think there's a way.
Yeah.
There's a way.
The impact would be, let's say, on the easiest thing would be on impacts aggregated one area, let's say one area, not necessarily a specific household, but let's say in a barangay, in a municipality or city or province.
That's correct.
Those are things that can be done quickly. Another project yun.
I thought actually that it was part of the.
Yeah, it was part of it. But this is
That's
more
why I
of
invited. We are bringing in
Jeff.
Jeff Docanes because he will be working on that aspect.
Yeah, we could probably include it.
Outside of the market power issue.
We can add it to the deliverables.
Because our interest is to be able to quantify the concentration of the development industries of the market power, and then really see the connection between the
Welfare.
market power with welfare. So that's why we need to get this. We did this household.
We did that before in firm and the household, pero yun, municipality level, because it will be group of households.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. Are there any questions at the end?
Ano bang timetable nito?
Okay, so the data crunching hopefully could begin tomorrow.
So ito yung 2012 onwards, no?
Yeah, 2013.
2013
And I
onwards.
understand from ANS Grace that the only thing that we can link for now is up to 2016. Tama po ba? Yung sa ASPBI. Yes, 2017. And then, but the transactions data is there, so we can also start until the latest period po siguro.
By that time that you're done with the 2016, the other years would be most probably available because it takes time also to months. It takes time. Okay. So we can sign now.
Yeah, we can
Okay.
sign.
Yes, we now would like to invite our signatories to sign the MOA. So once again, our signatories from UPPAF respond. We have Dr. Enrico Basilio from the Philippine Competition Commission. We have Chairman Arsenio Balisacan. From the Philippine Statistics Authority, we have Undersecretary Dennis Mapa. And as witness from Respond, we also have Team Leader for Respond, Dr. Mario Lamberte.
Signatories keep
the note.
Yeah.
We will no, kasi this is a very important event. The pen.
All right, thank you. To close out our event today, we'd like to call on Sec Dennis Mapa from the Philippine Statistics Authority to say a few words.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair RC of PCC for inviting us here. Of course, Henry of Respond and Mario. The Philippine Statistics Authority is very happy to be a partner of this initiative on big data analysis for monitoring market competition. I've been discussing with the team of Carl since last year on how this data from our firms, yung aming ASPBI and USPBI link with the trade data. And I was surprised that they're able to link it despite the fact that these are two different data sources. One administrative, the other one is survey. Well, in case you don't know, Chair RC is my professor and supervisor. And at UP, we really work together with data from PSA, household data, firm-based data. And as I said, we tried this before, actually, in 2000. combining firm data with household at geographical level, parang municipality level, using census data pa yun. And during that time, no, when we are doing research, and we understand the power of data from the Philippine Statistics Authority. And when I was briefed on this particular initiative, I was excited because the possibilities is immense, no, for researchers, particularly research for public policy, and also to help our academia. I understand that once this is set up, PSA can actually share it. We have also a parallel MOA with UP, so that when this is available, this can be actually shared to other academic units, no, for studies also. I am already thinking how many graduate students will earn their degree by simply mining the data. And Mario also mentioned, very important ito kay Mario, no, yung when he mentioned he visited PSA, he did mention that when using the firm-based data, there is a sort of inequality in access. Because our firm-based data, you can only access this on site, PSA at the central office. So this in a way create disadvantage to our researchers in the region, because they will have to go here and pay for fare. That's why I think the regional research are mostly on household data, because those are the data sets that are available. But thank you, Mario, for that comment. Because with that, I told my RDs that they have to create a data enclave, as we call it, at the regional level. So once this is in place, we will actually distribute this to the regions, so that the other researchers are able to access also, or are able to access the data for research. And a lot of people mining the data set. We will always have a lot of research outputs that will eventually can help policymakers make use of this data set for very important policy handles like what the PCC is doing. So again, the Philippine Statistics Authority is very excited to be part of this partnership with PCC and the Respond team, and we encourage, in fact, this type of partnership with other institutions. The idea is that we really want to use the data from the Philippine Statistics Authority because, admittedly, because of our job, we don't have that much time to really crunch and analyze this, and we leave this to researchers, particularly those that are into policies, to come up with some studies that will provide solution to our problem. So I'm thankful, and this is I think a start of a good partnership. So maraming salamat, magandang hapon sa ating lahat.
Thank you, Sec Dennis. For that, we'd like to officially begin work on the project as well and officially close this program. Thank you very much to our signatories and to everyone else who took time for this event. So we'd now like to invite the signatories for an official photo.
Okay, ready? 1, 2, 3. One more.
Jeff. Let's wait for Jeff. Ito magmamay ng mga household household data naman itong niya.
1, 2, 3.
Wait.
Si Adrian.
Ready? 1, 2. One more.
Okay.
Oh, start na yung study.